what would you do if the person you loved most in the world was trapped in a life they couldn't escape? What if you looked exactly like them, identical in every way? And what if one phone call in the middle of a stormy night changed everything? My name is Ava, and this is the story of the night I became my twin sister Emily. The night I walked into her house, her life, and faced the man who had been slowly taking away everything she was. This isn't a story about violence or revenge. It's about something far more powerful, the quiet kind of courage that changes everything. And I need to warn you, what happened that night will stay with me forever. Because sometimes, the most dangerous situations don't announce themselves with screams or broken glass. Sometimes they hide behind charm, behind closed doors, behind smiles that everyone believes. So if you've ever felt powerless, if you've ever wanted to protect someone you love, or if you've ever wondered what real strength looks like, stay with me. Because this story, it's going to take you somewhere unexpected. Let me tell you about my sister, Emily. From the moment we were born, people couldn't tell us apart. Same freckles dusting our cheeks. Same auburn hair that caught the light just right. Same smile that made our parents joke they were seeing double. We were mirrors of each other, two halves of the same whole. But here's the thing about mirrors. They might reflect the same image, but what's behind them can be completely different. As we grew up, our personalities carved us into different people. I became the loud one, the one who wasn't afraid to speak up, to challenge, to make noise when something wasn't right. I wore my emotions on my sleeve and never apologized for taking up space. Emily, she became gentle, soft-spoken, the kind of person who saw the good in everyone, even when maybe, just maybe, she shouldn't have. People loved her for it. They'd say things like, "Emily is so sweet," or "She's such a calming presence." And she was. But what they didn't see, what I didn't fully understand until it was almost too late, was that her gentleness was becoming something else. It was becoming silence. A silence built from worry, from walking on eggshells, from smiling when everything inside her was screaming. And no one heard it. Not our parents, not our friends, not even me for the longest time. Now, before I tell you what happened that night, you need to understand something about the man Emily married. Because if you met Daniel Ward at a party, you'd like him. Everyone did. He was charming. The kind of charming that makes you feel like you're the only person in the room. Polished. Successful. He had this way of smiling that made you trust him instantly. At their wedding, people whispered about how perfect they were together, how lucky Emily was. But charm is often just a mask. And if you wear a mask long enough, people forget to look for what's underneath. It was a Tuesday night when my phone rang. 11:47 p.m. I remember because I glanced at the clock, annoyed that someone was calling so late. But then I saw the name. Emily. My stomach dropped before I even answered. Emily didn't call late. Emily was always in bed by 10, always following routines, always controlled. "Hello," I answered, trying to keep my voice steady. "Ava." Her voice came through the line like broken glass. Sharp, fragmented, trembling. "I need you." 3 words, that's all it took. 3 words, and I knew something was very, very wrong. "What happened? Are you okay? Where are you?" The questions tumbled out of me in a rush. "I'm home. He's asleep right now, but Ava, I can't do this anymore. I can't. Every day I feel like I'm disappearing, like I'm becoming smaller and smaller, and I don't know how much of me is even left." My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. "I'm coming over. Right now. Pack a bag, we're getting you out of there." "No." Her voice was firm despite the tears I could hear behind it. "No, I can't just leave. You don't understand. He'll come looking for me. He always knows where I am. He checks my location, he calls if I'm 5 minutes late from work. She broke off, and I heard her take a shaky breath. "I feel like I'm being watched all the time. Even when he's not there, he's there." I sat up in bed, my mind racing. The rain had started outside, tapping against my window like urgent fingers trying to get my attention. "Emily, listen to me. You can stay with me. We'll figure this out. You don't have to go back. But I do, she whispered. Because if I just disappear, it'll be worse. God, Ava, you don't know what he's like when things don't go his way. He doesn't yell, he doesn't hit. But somehow that makes it worse because everyone thinks he's so wonderful and I'm the problem. I'm the one who's too sensitive, too dramatic, too. Stop, I cut her off, my voice fierce. You are none of those things. He's manipulating you, Emily. Can't you see that? Silence on the other end. Then, so quietly, I almost missed it. I know. That's when the idea hit me. Crazy, impossible, maybe even reckless, but it was there, forming in my mind like a puzzle piece clicking into place. We were identical twins. People had mixed us up our entire lives. What if we used that? What if I could step into her life just for a night and see what was really happening? See the man behind the mask, and more importantly, what if I could change things? Emily, I said slowly, carefully, what if I came over? What if I was you? What do you mean? I mean, we look exactly alike, we always have. What if I switched places with you, just for one night? You come stay at my place, get some rest, some space to breathe, and I go to your house. I talk to Daniel, I see what you're dealing with. Ava, that's insane. Maybe, but it might also be the only way to help you. He won't suspect anything. Why would he? You'll be right there in front of him. I could practically hear her thinking through the phone, weighing the impossibility against the desperation. What would you even do? She asked finally. I don't know yet, I admitted. But Emily, you called me because you need help. Let me help. Let me be strong for you when you can't be strong for yourself. That's what sisters do. Another long pause. Then, okay, but Ava, be careful, please. He's not what he seems. I know, I said, already getting out of bed, already planning. That's exactly why I'm doing this. 20 minutes later, Emily was at my apartment. The contrast between us in that moment was stark. We might have looked identical, but she seemed so much smaller somehow, like she'd been folded in on herself too many times. We stood in my bathroom, and I studied her reflection carefully. The way she held her shoulders, slightly hunched, protective. The way her smile didn't quite reach her eyes anymore, the exhaustion etched in the fine lines around her mouth. Tell me everything, I said. How do you move? How do you talk to him? What does he expect? For the next hour, Emily taught me how to be her. And let me tell you, becoming someone else, especially someone you love who's been hurt, is one of the strangest experiences of your life. It wasn't just about changing clothes or fixing my hair. It was about changing the very way I existed in space. You have to make yourself smaller, Emily explained, demonstrating. Not just physically, but energetically. Like you're trying not to take up too much room. When he comes into a room, you shift. Not obviously, just a little. You make space for him. I practiced in the mirror, softening my posture, rounding my shoulders slightly. And your voice, she continued. You naturally speak louder than me. You project. I've learned to speak softer, especially around him. He says it's more feminine, more gentle. I felt anger flare in my chest, but pushed it down. This wasn't the time. What about eye contact? Not too much. He doesn't like it when I stare. He says it makes him feel like I'm challenging him. The more she told me, the clearer the picture became. This wasn't just about being quiet or gentle. This was about making herself invisible, about shrinking to fit into the space he allowed her. I changed into her clothes. A soft sweater, comfortable jeans, nothing flashy or attention-grabbing. I pulled my hair back the way she wore hers. I looked in the mirror, and for a moment, I couldn't tell which one of us I was seeing. That's perfect, Emily whispered. You look exactly like me. That's the point, I said, squeezing her hand. Now you're going to stay here, lock the door, and try to rest. I'll text you when I get there and keep you updated. What are you going to do when you see him? I looked at my sister, my identical twin who had become a stranger to herself, and made a promise. I'm going to remind him that you're a person, not a possession, not a doll he can pose and control. A person. And maybe, just maybe, I'm going to help you take back your voice. The storm had gotten worse. Rain hammered against my windshield so hard the wipers could barely keep up. The streets were dark, empty, like the whole world had taken shelter except for me. I drove through neighborhoods I'd known since childhood, but everything looked different through the rain and the darkness. Every red light felt too long. Every turn felt like I was driving towards something I couldn't take back. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. "Please be safe, and Ava, thank you." I didn't respond. I couldn't. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. What was I doing, walking into a stranger's house? No, not a stranger, my brother-in-law, pretending to be someone else. This was insane. This was dangerous. This was necessary. This was necessary. I thought about every time Emily had made excuses for why she couldn't come to family dinners. Every time she'd shown up with shadows under her eyes and said she was just tired. Every time I'd heard her voice get smaller and smaller on the phone. No, this wasn't insane. This was overdue. The house appeared through the rain like a painting. Pretty suburban, exactly the kind of place where happy families lived. White fence, trimmed lawn, warm lights in the windows. Picture perfect. Perfectly hiding what was inside. I parked in the driveway, took a deep breath, and became Emily. The key turned smoothly in the lock. I stepped inside, shaking rain from my jacket, and immediately felt the weight of the house settle around me. Everything was immaculate, spotless, the kind of clean that felt less like comfort and more like control. "Emily!" His voice came from upstairs, casual, relaxed, like he'd just been watching TV or reading. My heart hammered, but I kept my voice soft, measured. "Yes, I'm home." "Where were you? I texted you an hour ago." I hadn't seen any text, because it hadn't been sent to me. It had been sent to Emily's phone, which was safely at my apartment. "My phone died," I said, hanging up the jacket exactly where I'd seen Emily hang hers 100 times. "Sorry, I was just driving around, needed to clear my head." Footsteps on the stairs. And then there he was. Daniel Ward. Tall, handsome in that conventional way, with perfectly styled hair even at midnight. He wore sweatpants and a t-shirt, but somehow still looked put together. His smile was easy, but his eyes were doing something else. Assessing, calculating. "Driving around in a storm, that's not like you, Em." He called her Em. Something about that nickname made my skin crawl. "I know, I needed some air." He came closer, and I had to fight every instinct not to step back, not to square my shoulders and meet his gaze head-on like I normally would. "You okay? You seem different." My pulse spiked. Different already? I'd been in the house for 30 seconds. "I'm fine," I said, softer, smaller. "Just tired." He studied me for another moment, too long, too intense, then smiled. "Okay, well, I'm glad you're home. I worry about you when you're out alone." Worry. He called it worry. But it didn't feel like worry. It felt like surveillance. "I'm going to make some tea," I said. "Do you want some?" "Sure, I'll be in the living room." I moved into the kitchen, grateful for a moment to breathe. The kitchen was as pristine as the rest of the house, everything in its place. I opened cabinets, looking for tea, and found them organized with almost military precision. As I waited for the water to boil, I noticed something. A cork board by the phone with a calendar. Emily's schedule, written in neat handwriting. Every appointment, every errand, every moment accounted for. And in the corner, in different handwriting, his handwriting, little check marks next to certain days. He was tracking her. Actually, physically tracking her schedule. The kettle whistled, sharp and sudden, and I jumped. My hands shook as I poured the tea, but I steadied them. I couldn't afford to show fear, not now. I carried 2 mugs into the living room. He was sitting on the couch, relaxed, scrolling through his phone. He looked up when I entered and smiled again, that charming, disarming smile that probably worked on everyone except me. "So," he said as I sat down carefully in the corner of the couch, not too close. "What's really going on? You've been weird lately." "Weird how?" "Distant, quiet, well, more quiet than usual." He laughed like it was a joke. "I feel like you're not really here sometimes." This was my moment. I could play Emily, stay small, let the night pass and leave, or I could do what I came here to do. I took a breath. We need to talk. His expression shifted just slightly. A flash of something, surprise, annoyance, before the smile returned. Okay, about what? About us, about how things have been. Things have been fine, haven't they? Have they? I kept my voice soft, but didn't drop my gaze. That was the first test. Emily always looked away first. Would he notice? I think so, he said slowly. Is there something you want to tell me? I feel like I'm disappearing, I said, and it was Emily's truth in my voice. Like every day, I get smaller and smaller, and I don't know how to stop it. He set down his phone, giving me his full attention now. That's pretty dramatic, Emily. Where is this coming from? It's not dramatic, it's how I feel. Okay, but why do you feel that way? I give you everything. A beautiful home, financial security. I don't ask for much. You ask for everything, I interrupted quietly. You ask me to account for every minute of my day. You check my location. You get upset if I'm even 5 minutes late. You tell me how to dress, how to speak, who I can see. I don't tell you anything, he said, and there was an edge to his voice now, sharp beneath the smooth surface. I make suggestions because I care about you, because I want the best for you. Is that such a crime? It is when I can't breathe. Silence. Heavy, thick, dangerous silence. He stood up, and I had to fight not to flinch. He walked to the window, looked out at the rain. When he spoke again, his voice was controlled, measured. I don't know what's gotten into you tonight, but I don't appreciate this attitude. This isn't you. Maybe it is me. Maybe you just don't really know me. He turned, and the mask slipped just a fraction, just enough for me to see what Emily had been seeing. The control, the anger, the need to dominate. I know you better than anyone, he said quietly. I know you're gentle, sweet, that you don't like conflict, so this, whatever this is, it's not you. Maybe you've been talking to your sister again. She's always putting ideas in your head. My sister has nothing to do with this. Doesn't she? Every time you spend time with Ava, you come back different, more defiant. She's not good for you, Em. She makes you question things that don't need to be questioned. There it was, the isolation, the wedge he'd been trying to drive between us. I stood up slowly, carefully. Emily wouldn't storm out. Emily wouldn't yell, but Emily also couldn't keep shrinking forever. I'm not questioning our relationship because of Ava, I said. I'm questioning it because I'm unhappy, because I feel trapped, because this isn't love, it's control. The air in the room changed. It was like all the oxygen had been sucked out, replaced with something electric and dangerous. Daniel took a step toward me, not aggressive, not overtly threatening, but calculated. He was testing me, trying to see if I would back down like Emily always did. I didn't move. Control, he repeated, his voice soft, almost gentle. Emily, I think you're confused. Everything I do is because I love you, I protect you, I take care of you. You don't have to worry about anything. I handle everything. I don't want to be handled. I want to be a partner. You are my partner. No, I'm your project. Something you've molded and shaped until I barely recognize myself anymore. His jaw tightened. You're being ridiculous and honestly kind of ungrateful. Do you know how many women would love to have what you have? Then maybe you should be with one of them. The words hung in the air between us. I watched his face cycle through emotions. Shock, anger, calculation. He was trying to figure out what was happening, how to regain control of the conversation. You don't mean that, he said finally. Don't I? Emily, you're upset, you're emotional. Let's just go to bed and talk about this tomorrow when you're thinking clearly. I am thinking clearly, maybe for the first time in years. He moved closer, and this time I did step back, not out of fear, but out of boundary setting. He noticed. What has gotten into you? He asked, and there was something raw in his voice now, something like genuine confusion mixed with the control. This isn't you. You don't talk like this. You don't act like this. And that's when I realized something crucial. He didn't actually know Emily. He knew the version of her he'd created, the one who fit into his perfect picture. The real Emily, the one who loved art and used to laugh loudly and had opinions and dreams. She'd been buried so deep, he'd forgotten she existed. Maybe she'd almost forgotten too. "Maybe you're right," I said quietly. "Maybe this isn't the me you know, but it's the me I used to be, before I started making myself smaller to fit into your world." "My world. This is our world. I built this life for us." "You built it for you, I just live in it." The rain continued to hammer against the windows, creating a rhythm that filled the silences between our words. I could see him struggling, trying to find the right thing to say, the right angle to take to bring Emily back under control. But I wasn't Emily. Not really. And that was making all the difference. "What do you want from me?" he asked finally, and there was exhaustion in his voice. "Tell me what you want, and I'll do it." "I want you to see me, really see me. Not as an extension of you, not as someone you can manage or control, but as a whole person with my own thoughts and feelings and needs." "I do see you." "No, you don't. You see a doll you can pose, a supporting character in your story, but I'm not that. I'm the main character of my own life, Daniel, or at least I should be." He sat back down, ran his hands through his hair. "I don't understand what's happening right now." "I know, and that's part of the problem." We sat in that heavy silence for a long time. The storm outside seemed to be letting up, the rain softening from a hammer to a patter. Dawn was probably hours away still, but I could feel something shifting, changing. "Do you still love me?" he asked quietly. It was the first vulnerable thing he'd said all night. The first thing that sounded real. "I don't know," I answered honestly, or as honestly as I could while pretending to be Emily. "But I know I can't keep living like this. Something has to change." "Like what?" "Like the tracking, the checking up, the constant need to know where I am and what I'm doing. Like you trusting me to make my own decisions without your input. Like me being able to see my family without you making comments about how they're influencing me." He was quiet for a long moment. "I never realized it felt like that to you. Because you never asked." More silence. I could see him processing, thinking, trying to reconcile the wife he thought he knew with the person sitting in front of him. "I'm going to stay at my sister's for a few days," I said finally. "We both need space to think." "Emily." "No, this isn't a discussion. I'm telling you what I need, and what I need is space." I stood up, moved toward the stairs to pack a bag, and waited. This was the moment. Would he try to stop me? Would he escalate? Would the mask come all the way off? He stood too, and I tensed, ready for anything. But he just said, "Okay, if that's what you need." I almost didn't believe it. "Okay." "Yeah. I mean, I don't like it, and I think you're overreacting, but okay. Take some time. We'll talk when you're ready." I went upstairs, packed a bag quickly, my hands shaking with adrenaline. Was it really going to be this easy? Or was this just another form of control, letting me think I had freedom while planning his next move? When I came back downstairs with the bag, he was standing by the door. "Drive safe," he said. "Text me when you get there so I know you're okay." There it was. Even in letting go, he couldn't fully let go, but I just nodded. "I will." I drove through the dying storm back to my apartment, my whole body trembling with the come-down from hours of sustained tension. The sky was starting to lighten in the east, that deep blue-gray that comes just before dawn. When I got home, Emily was awake, sitting on my couch wrapped in a blanket, her phone clutched in her hands. "Did he text you?" I asked. She nodded. 3 times, asking if I was okay, if I got there safe, if I was mad at him. I sat down next to her, and suddenly all the energy drained out of me. "Emily, we need to talk about what happens next." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I could stand up to him because I'm not you. Because I don't have the history, the worn-down exhaustion, the years of being told I'm too sensitive or overreacting. But you have to live with him, so we need to figure out what you want to do." Emily was quiet for a long time, staring at her phone. Then she said, "When you were there, did you feel it, that pressure, like the walls were closing in?" "Yeah, I did." "And you still stood up to him?" "Yeah." "How?" I thought about it. "Because I love you. Because I could see clearly what you couldn't see anymore because you're too close to it. And because I knew I could walk away at the end of the night. "But Emily, you can't keep living like that. No one should have to live like that." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I don't know how to be strong like you." "You're already strong," I said fiercely. "You survived years of that. You made it through every single day. You called me when you needed help. That's not weakness, Emily. That's incredible strength." "Then why don't I feel strong?" "Because he's spent years convincing you that you're not. That's what people like him do. They make you doubt yourself so much that you can't trust your own instincts anymore. But I'm telling you right now, as someone who loves you and sees you clearly, you are one of the strongest people I know." She cried then, really cried, the kind of crying that comes from deep inside, from a place that's been holding it all in for too long. And as the sun rose outside my window, as the storm finally cleared and the world started to wake up, we made a plan. A real plan. Not just for tonight, but for the future. Emily would stay with me for a while. She'd see a therapist. She'd talk to a lawyer about her options. And most importantly, she'd start listening to her own voice again, the one that had been drowned out by his. It wouldn't be easy. She'd go back and forth, doubt herself, wonder if she was overreacting. That's what happens when you've been told for years that your reality isn't real. But she wouldn't be alone. She'd have me. She'd have our family. She'd have people who saw her for who she truly was. You know what I learned that night? Courage doesn't always look like what we think it should. It's not always loud or dramatic or visible. Sometimes courage is making a phone call when you're terrified. Sometimes it's letting someone help you when you've convinced yourself you don't deserve help. Sometimes it's standing up for someone you love, even when you're scared of what might happen. And sometimes the strongest people aren't the ones who never break. They're the ones who break and then slowly, carefully, put themselves back together. Emily is rebuilding her life now. It's not perfect. She still has hard days, days when she doubts herself, days when she wonders if leaving was the right choice. But they are her days now, her choices, her life. As for Daniel, I won't lie and say he magically changed or that there was some perfect resolution. Real life doesn't work like that. He went through periods of anger, of pleading, of trying to convince Emily that she was making a mistake. He told people she was having a breakdown, that I had manipulated her. But Emily held firm. And slowly, the people who really mattered started to see the truth. The thing about masks is that they can only stay in place for so long. Eventually, cracks appear. Eventually, people start to notice the inconsistencies between the public face and the private reality. I think about that night a lot. The rain, the tension, the moment when I stood in my sister's kitchen and realized that sometimes love means being willing to step into someone else's life and fight the battles they can't fight for themselves. From this story, you don't need an identical twin to have someone in your corner. You don't need someone to literally become you to get help. If you're in a situation where you feel like you're disappearing, like you're becoming smaller every day, like you can't breathe, that's not love. I don't care how charming the person is, how perfect they seem from the outside, how much they say they're doing it because they care. Love doesn't make you smaller. It makes you more yourself. Love doesn't track your every move. It trusts you. Love doesn't isolate you from the people who care about you. It celebrates those relationships. And if you're watching this and you recognize yourself in Emily's story, please reach out to someone. A friend, a family member, a hotline, a therapist. You don't have to fight this battle alone. Emily and I are closer now than we've ever been. Not because we look alike, but because we walked through fire together and came out the other side. She's finding her voice again, day by day. It gets stronger every time she uses it. And me. I learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is show up. Just show up, be present, and refuse to look away when someone you love is hurting. Because at the end of the day, that's what family is. That's what love is. Not control, not possession, not making someone fit into your perfect picture. It's seeing someone exactly as they are and saying, I'm here, I see you, and I'm not going anywhere. The storm passed. The night ended. But the courage, that stays. Thank you for listening to our story. If it resonated with you, please share it. You never know who might need to hear it. And remember, you are not too sensitive. You are not overreacting. Your voice matters. Your life is yours. Stay strong. Stay safe. And never forget that asking for help isn't weakness. It's one of the bravest things you can do.